Gentaro's characterization is unique in that you have to parse out what's true about him and what's just AU fodder. He's like a puzzle that has half of its pieces missing, so to make up for it, pieces from 2 other puzzles have been mixed in, and while you try to figure out which pieces fit together, the puzzle box keeps quoting obscure literature at you. Gentaro's MC name is Phantom in English, and is derived from the kanji used in his first name. A phantom is something you think is there, but it's really not. This is possibly best embodied by the little book he carries around, which we all assume to contain memos for his writings, or to be a Bible if you're new here. But it was shown to be blank in what was one of Hypmic's most memorable reveals. Proving that Gentaro's character isn't just meant to mess with his fellow rappers, he's also frequently playing tricks on us as the audience. He teases veteran fans that took everything in Scenario Liar seriously in his Glory or Dust verse. He's frequently responsible for the most insane ARB events. 2 chapters of the Fling Posse manga were dedicated to faking out the reader with his friend fic, and he's blatantly broken the 4th wall before. Hypmic has employed some genius foreshadowing over the years, especially with Fling Posse, but as we hipsters all know, it only takes a single drama track to level everything we thought we knew. So keeping that in mind, here's the notes I have so far on our favorite rapper in a boater hat. The Gentaro we know from Fling Posse has been going by a pen name he took from his older twin brother, who's been laying comatose in a hospital since before Hypmic's story began. Gentaro's older brother's condition is similar to Yotsutsuji's, and it's a safe bet that Gentaro's brother's coma was caused by similar circumstances, where he knew too much and Chuoku used a true hypnosis mic on him to ensure he won't be waking up to tell us what he found out anytime soon. Gentaro's brother wrote his findings in a tell-all manuscript that went unpublished and ultimately ended up in Otome's hands. The contents of the manuscript are implied to be about Chuoku's cloning project, and by extension, the development of the true hypnosis mic. It's unclear if Gentaro's brother was more of an investigative journalist than a fiction author, but regardless, he was definitely some kind of writer. After his brother became incapacitated, Gentaro stole his name, career, and general identity, which apparently wasn't very hard thanks to the whole twin-swapping places trope. Ever since, Gentaro's been subtly criticizing the government through his published fiction, and in turn, Chuoku's been keeping tabs on him. Gentaro not only lies to hide his true identity, but has made it his hobby. Spinning stories is arguably just a form of lying, and his achievements as a best-selling novelist means he's good at what he does. But Gentaro doesn't make things up just because he likes to deceive people. Rather, he likes to watch people as they learn the truth, like watching a reader's reaction to the culprit being revealed at the end of a mystery novel. That's why he tips off the gullible with his catchphrase, "Uso desu kedo ne." And when he can't get the reaction he wants, he just walks away annoyed. This is why he gets along with Ramada and Dice so well. They give him the reactions he's looking for. Ramada always plays along, and Dice never wises up. Due to Gentaro's brother's association with Chuoku's cloning program, there's a fan theory that the original Ramada is Gentaro's brother. And while this theory doesn't have nearly the same traction as the Buster Mom theory, I do think it's worth noting, because when you dive into the literary references Gentaro makes, he and his loved ones being involved with inhumane experimentation seems like less of a stretch. Gentaro's last name is a reference to the author Kyusaku Yumeno, who is known for his surreal and dreamlike fiction. In the musicals, Gentaro specifically references Kyusaku's most famous work, Dogra Magra, in his Don't Pass the Mic verse. Dogra Magra's protagonist is coincidentally named Ichiro, and the book begins with him waking up in a mental institution with amnesia and trying to decipher his own identity from there. The book has a lot of interpretations, but by the end, the reader is led to believe that Ichiro was the victim of an experiment that caused him to murder his loved ones. And if that seems grim, don't worry, the next reference we'll be covering is arguably more depressing. When Gentaro's first solo was released as part of Fling Posse's introductory CD, many fans took its content at face value since there wasn't anything else about Gentaro's backstory to go off of at the time. But we now know that when Shigen Mori was writing the lyrics, he wasn't given any character details to include, and the song was just themed around the idea of a lying novelist. So instead of learning anything concrete about Gentaro's past, Scenario Liar narrates false childhood memories of Gentaro learning to lie, in what feels like a vague homage to the novel No Longer Human, which later got a direct shout-out in the Hood Star music video. No Longer Human is a creative autobiographical novel by Osamu Dazai, where his protagonist Yozo agonizes over his social anxieties from a young age and later struggles with depression and drug addiction, which ultimately leads to his death. Like No Longer Human's main character, Gentaro is incredibly observant of others and tries to change his behavior accordingly. This is particularly relevant in how he interacts with Ramada, catching on early that there's something suspicious about his team's leader. And yet, he shows faith in Ramada and empathizes with how Ramada has a past that he can't easily discuss, and has led him to effectively living a double life. Upon their first meeting, Ramada asserts Gentaro is lonely, but I don't think this interpretation is quite accurate. Gentaro may be alone before the DRB, but I don't think he's lonely. Just like in Scenario Liar, Gentaro plays narrator in the song Stella, where he's assigned himself the role of a bandit, someone who has to steal to survive. Like his counterpart in the song, Gentaro has been operating alone on the outskirts of morality. It's after he gets recruited for the DRB that he finds camaraderie and common goals amongst Fling Posse. In Stella, Gentaro the Bandit mentions he's awaiting the arrival of a messiah. While a lot of fans interpret this line as Gentaro waiting for Dice to arrive in his life and for Fling Posse to form, I think Gentaro is actually referring to his older brother here, and how he's waiting for him to wake up. Gentaro's speaker takes the form of Toro, traditional lamps that were originally placed outside of Buddhist temples and represented the body returning to the 5 elements after death. Though in modern day, Gentaro's red variety are more associated with Shinto shrines. Gentaro's second solo is titled Calyx. A calyx is the green part at the base of a flower. Its function is to protect the petals while the flower is still a bud. But in the song, the petals have already been blown away, either long past the time for a calyx to protect them, or hit by winds a calyx can't do anything about. And as a result, the scattered petals have covered up the pathway Gentaro was on, and he can no longer see where he was going. The song title pronounces the kanji for calyx as utana, a homophone for the throne part in the term lotus throne, which Gentaro offers to share with someone in the latter half of the song. The lotus throne is where a Buddha and other divine beings are placed in Buddhist and Hindu iconography, and represent something pure emerging from tainted surroundings. Even after his brother falls comatose and Gentaro's future becomes unclear, there's still a lamp in the darkness to guide him, and truth is to be found amongst the lies. His speaker interprets this idea literally, where as he raps, his speaker lights his path. It also contributes to the traditional Japanese aesthetic that the rest of his design follows. The inspiration for Gentaro's manner of dress, his transformed mic, and his archaic speech quirks are specifically meant to invoke Japan's Taisho era, which is hailed by many as the beginning of Japan's modern literary movement, meaning a lot of the boring books Japanese kids have to read in high school are from it. Stuffy, hard to understand, and outdated is exactly Gentaro's style. Despite his traditional Japanese design, Gentaro's character also pulls from Western media, in particular film. His official quote, "What do you want meaning for? Life is desire, not meaning," is from the American movie Limelight. Out of context, this quote seems to be promoting nihilism, and you may have noticed that nihilism and how characters respond to it has become a common theme in Hypmic, and once again, we have Evangelion to blame for that. But rather than life holding a lack of significance, in context, this quote describes the exact opposite. In the film, the protagonist Calvero says this in opposition to the statement that life seems bleak and empty in his efforts to rehabilitate a young suicidal ballerina. Calvero's specialty is impressions. Gentaro's rap ability is that he can copy others' abilities. He seemingly steals abilities, but he merely impersonates them temporarily to use them to his advantage. In a similar way, Calvero is able to temporarily captivate his audience with his character impersonations. There's also just a lot of lines in this movie that make me think of Gentaro.
Well, if my name is poison to them, I won't use it. I'll go under another name.
I had an idea that we'd met before.
Well, perhaps we have.
Well, if we haven't, then you have a twin sister.
Calvero is an entertainer from a bygone era. Others call him washed up and outdated, but he ends up dying for his art form. No Longer Human, Dogma Magra, and Limelight all share themes of identity, impersonation, and mental illness. To be fair, most Hypmic characters are a little funny in the head. Hopefully, though, Gentaro does not meet the same tragic ends as the characters he's based on. Then again, in Scenario Liar, Gentaro describes himself as a tragic hero, but whether or not you believe him is up to you. His character revolves around truth and the lack thereof under Chuoku's reign. Burdened by truth, he finds relief in telling lies, be it for his own amusement or for a chance that someone will read between the lines and look past the phantoms to see Gentaro for who he truly is. Himself.